Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. Welcome to the South Today's look back at the major news events over 2021. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll show you month-by-month highlights of the year in news in the South. January saw crowds able to attend outdoor music concerts, and there was a sigh of relief for Southlanders concerned about the possible closure of the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter.
January brought good news for Southland when the owners of the aluminium smelter at Tiwai Point signed a new agreement with electricity supplier Meridian Energy.
People are very pleased, very happy. Nice to have that certainty. It's been a tough 2020 and the people on site have performed amazingly well through that challenge. And so it's nice to have a 4-year certain time frame now. We can get on with producing fantastic product and doing what we do best.
The deal ensures the smelter will continue operating until at least 2024. Climate activists brought operations at the Dunedin railway station to a halt, with some even clipping themselves onto the tracks to prevent coal trains from travelling through. The protesters claimed a partial victory after stopping all coal transportation for the day. And while concert events in other countries were cancelled due to COVID-19, more than 10,000 fans enjoyed music and sunshine at the annual Gibbston Valley Winery summer concert.
Yeah, 10,000 people is not, in any other event that would be seen as a huge success. But we're used to that sort of 18,000, so it is a smaller turnout, but at least we're out here having fun, enjoying live music again with friends and family.
Next year's concert has been pushed back to March due to the uncertainties caused by COVID-19. And work continued on the new 7-storey Langlands Hotel in the heart of Invercargill. The 80-room hotel owned by the Invercargill Licensing Trust will feature a rooftop bar with panoramic views of the southern city.
So on a beautiful day like this, be able to come up and have a chilled beer or a cold bubbles and watch the aircraft land and see the amazing views right the way through to the tackies. There's actually 360-degree views, so the direction I'm facing, Bluff Hill, you'll be able to see, and east and west as well, so she's pretty spectacular.
The giant crane named Lofty the Yellow Lifter finished its contribution to the build in November, with the hotel on track to open for guests early next year.
In February, there was a lead contamination scare for people living north of Dunedin, which made national headlines. And university students celebrated their O Week.
What started as a cautionary warning quickly escalated for people living in Karitane and Waikouaiti. Residents were advised to avoid drinking tap water due to the risk of lead contamination. High levels of lead had been detected in the water since the previous December, but council confusion and staff absences meant officials didn't warn the community until February.
In general, the community is nervous, we're worried, and we're actually really all very shocked that the 8th of December was the first test that showed these levels in our water, and it is now 8 weeks later.
An exhaustive investigation found there were various reasons for the occasional spike in lead readings. And after 6 months of largely relying on tankers, residents were told their water supply was safe again to drink. Work renovating Dunedin's historic prison continued apace, with a new slate roof finally being put on the 125-year-old building.
It comes with a 100-year guarantee on it, which is amazing. And John Megan, who's our roof slater, put us onto it. So we're very fortunate in having really, really good quality, very, very hard slate.
Car enthusiasts in Alexandra were treated to an exhibition of this steam-powered locomobile dating back to 1901, which was the first car imported into Dunedin. E-scooter company Neuron NZ chose Dunedin as the first South Island city to make its scooters available for hire, after Lime's green models introduced the concept to the city. Neuron said they had designed and built their scooters with an emphasis on safety.
We're a vertically integrated company, so we We do our own software, our firmware and our hardware. So we don't go and get a scooter off the shelf from a third party. We build it from the ground up for commercial rideshare, and it helps us instill at the core safety.
And O-Weeks for the University of Otago Union Hall, looking more like a Roman forum of 2,000 years ago. First year students enjoyed the popular annual toga party tradition, dressed in bedsheets and makeshift togas, while dancing to musical acts from around the country. In Dunedin, the South Today.
March saw a murder trial held in Dunedin following the discovery of a body more than a year earlier. And a Keene Lake swimmer in Wanaka designed a wetsuit to help freshwater swimmers.
March welcomed in the start of the annual Bluff oyster season, with boats already bringing in oysters just a day after the season opened.
So yesterday, the 1st of March, the first day the boats allowed to go to sea, so boats were out yesterday and we're just doing our first processing today for the new season.
In Dunedin, a jury took less than an hour to return a unanimous verdict of guilty in the case of the murder of 45-year-old Brent Bacon. 39-year-old John Collins says he had no explanation for killing his friend in 2019.
His blood, which was spilled in an unjust death, has cried out to be avenged ever since. The actions of the defendant were callous, barbaric and cruel, and have ripped our lives apart. We as a family, which includes Brent's 3 precious children, will never get over this.
In May, Collins was jailed for life with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years. In Balclutha, a resident was dismayed to see construction rubble being dumped into the Clutha River. They were told by the truck driver that the council had advised them to do so. An investigation by the Environmental Protection Authority found the council had not followed due process. It also found while the environmental effects were minor, the damage could have been greater if it had not been reported quickly by a member of the public. In Wanaka, a local design engineer released his second prototype of a wetsuit, purpose-designed for swimming in freshwater lakes.
So the idea is to get a person level in the water rather than a sinker. So trying to bring you up level, you need more buoyancy in certain positions of the body to get you level in the water.
And a record number of runners turned up to this year's clock tower race. The competitors had to sprint around the University of Otago Registry building before the clock finished chiming 12. In Dunedin, the South Today.
In April, students marched in protest against climate change, and new electric cars showed their mettle at this year's Otago rally.
Thousands of Dunedin school pupils abandoned formal lessons to educate others about the threat of climate change. Amongst them was a university student from Tuvalu with a passionate speech about her home island, saying it won't exist in 30 years' time.
I want you to be able to say that you visit the island you helped save. We need to remember that we are way past the prevention phase of climate change.
A capacity crowd of about 3,000 watched earth movers, dump trucks and wheel loaders give a full working display at Wheels at Wanaka during Easter weekend.
These machines are vintage machines, they're retired machines, and it's not seen probably anywhere in the world, this collection of gear that is operating here today.
The 3-day event first began in 2019. 5 days of entertainment, most of it outdoors, proved to be a huge success at this year's Arrowtown Autumn Festival. Even rain on the last day didn't stop over 1,000 ticket holders from turning up to enjoy hot pies and beverages on a local village green. This year's Otago Rally featured a demonstration of Hayden Paddon's new experimental electric-powered rally car. An experience that left Dunedin's non-driving mayor for once almost lost for words.
Yeah, it's I think it's showing off out there, obviously. Doing donuts on purpose. But it was good to be forewarned.
The Hyundai electric rally car is being developed at Paddon's Cromwell facility and is already attracting interest around the world.
After the break, we continue our look back at the events of 2021. Welcome back. In May, Dunedin lost popular former Mayor Dave Cull. And the city made national headlines after a man went on a rampage in a local supermarket, stabbing multiple people.
Nearing the middle of the month, a man went on a stabbing rampage at the Dunedin Central Countdown supermarket, seriously injuring 2 staff members and a married couple.
What I can say is that those that intervened, some of who became injured themselves, I think have acted selflessly and with great courage to prevent this man from hurting anybody else, and indeed I think they did just that.
42-year-old Luke James Lambert pleaded guilty to 4 counts of attempted murder in December, and Justice Cameron Mander lifted his name suppression without opposition. Work continued apace on the Southland Charity Hospital, with Melissa Vining visiting the repurposing of the old Clifton Club Inn on the birthday of her late husband and cancer care advocate Blair Vining.
It's pretty exciting for us to be here today and knowing that construction's underway.
The hospital will hopefully be operational by April next year. The Dunedin Town Hall was packed with people paying their respects at the funeral of former Dunedin Mayor Dave Cull. Mr Cull had died 6 months after being diagnosed with a tumour on his pancreas. He was 71. 500 dairy cows were on the move near Clydevale as they were guided to winter grazing. A group of locals helped out with the annual shift by riding along on horseback to keep the dairy herd calm during the 20-kilometre trek. People from all over the country descended on the south for the annual Bluff Oyster and Food Festival. As well as dining on the delicacies, attendees got to watch expert oyster shuckers race each other, with Vic Persey winning the ladies' title for a 10th successive time.
I've done my time now, so it's time to retire and let someone else have a go.
Next year's festival is set for the end of May. Across the South Today.
The month of June saw plenty of winter-themed events being held over Queen's birthday weekend. Those included the popular annual Luma Light Festival in Queenstown, as well as the last ever Brass Monkey motorbike rally.
The public came out in their droves to enjoy this year's Luma Southern Light project in Queenstown over Queen's birthday weekend in June. What began as a small downtown event back in 2016 has grown into a massive undertaking, with more than 50,000 visitors coming through the gates over the 4-night festival.
We have everything from the largest origami boat in the Southern Hemisphere to gardens of mushrooms to performance to elves and pixies. We've got roaming fairies back again, and we've got everything. We've even got a place to worship.
Temperatures were in the double figures for the 40th Brass Monkey motorcycle rally this year, the final one to be run. A record-breaking 4,500 motorcyclists turned up to celebrate the event, many of them stalwarts from the past 4 decades.
And that's the biggest that we've ever had in 40 years. But it's the same old thing when you tell people that it's the last of something. They'll make the effort to come. And with COVID last year, people didn't go anywhere. People have bought new motorbikes and they spent their money in New Zealand, travelling around New Zealand, and that's what people have been telling us as well.
Well-known Queenstown-based businessman and philanthropist Sir Ian Edgar died aged 76. He had been fighting pancreatic cancer over the previous year. Just a month before his death, Sir Ian had been made a Distinguished Fellow by the Institute of Directors at a special ceremony in Queenstown. An extra pair of kaka were introduced to Invercargill's Queen's Park Aviary, bringing the total number in captivity to 6. The aim was to see the new arrivals encouraging breeding between the birds, with some of the offspring set to be released into the wild.
So they were brought here to hopefully actually get both pairs to create competition between the pairs and hopefully get them to bond and form productive breeding pairs.
And a clubhouse at Dunedin's Bellnows golf course was totally destroyed by an early morning blaze. Fire crews struggled in conditions made extra slippery by a wintry snowfall. There are plans to rebuild the venue in time for the golf club's 100th anniversary in 2023. The cause of the fire did not appear to be suspicious. In Dunedin, the South Today.
July saw some of Central Otago's ski fields opening newly developed snow runs. And potentially toxic waste was finally removed from Mataura's old paper mill site.
The 10,000 tonnes of potentially toxic waste stored in the former Mataura paper mill beside the Mataura River were finally taken away in June. The presence of the smelter dross was revealed to the public during heavy floods in early 2020. Local Mayor Tracy Hicks said the people of Mataura were very pleased with the news.
Relieved, pleased, and looking forward to the future. And I know that the people of Mataura will be as well. They'll be able to rest easy tonight.
Dunedin's Forbury Park Raceway saw horses racing under lights for the final time. The well-known track was shut down as part of cost-saving measures, leaving the 111-year-old Trotting Club now looking for a new home.
It's certainly sad. It's a wee bit like a funeral for a friend. But having said that, this place was set up by people before us, and the job for the board going forward is to find a new home and a new legacy for future generations.
Greyhound racing finished up at the venue 3 weeks later. A Dunedin couple were dismayed to find out they may need to pay up to $100,000 to replace a wall near the edge of their property. The wall had been built by the subdivision developer.
In 2018 we came here and to see the section. We loved the place. We thought that's where our dream home is going to be. Everything was going so good until we wanted to get the landscaping done, and that's where stress came our lives very fast, and it's been very stressful since then.
The developer insisted they weren't responsible for any problems with the wall. And after delays due to lack of snow, Cardrona Alpine Resort finally opened its new Willows quad chairlift. The south-facing basins featured undulating terrain, suitable for both intermediate skiers and snowboarders alike. Cardrona closed for the season at the end of October.
August saw people from across New Zealand and the south enjoying much anticipated events such as Wall On. But that all changed in the middle of the month with the emergence of the Delta variant of COVID-19, bringing a fresh lockdown and the start of a determined vaccination push.
Woolen garments were modelled on the catwalk in the remote township of Taras as part of the annual Wool On fashion event. The show, which had been marred by infighting and venue changes, was bailed out at the last minute by the district council. A historic wooden causeway dating back to about 1850 was unveiled in Dunedin's Wall Street Mall. The pile of wooden branches formed a raised track and gave insight into what the early settlers faced, armed with not much more than an axe to build their homes.
So they're going up onto the hillside behind us here, cutting timber and carrying it down to where the town was growing down on the foreshore. But of course, it's a quagmire. They're walking across this boggy area, you'd be up to your waist in mud. So they're working hard, they're clearing bush, they're cutting timber to build, and they're also using some of the waste timber that they're cutting to build this pathway.
40 years after the South African rugby team played against Otago as part of the Springboks' infamous 1981 tour, anti-tour activist John Minto was back. He visited the former sports ground he had attended matches at as a boy, and also paid tribute to those who marched against South Africa's apartheid policies.
To arrive here in a really big crowd was great. We were when I joined the protest, it was at the Oval, back at the Oval. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great day for Dunedin to say no to racism, and I think so many people did.
A large-scale COVID-19 vaccination clinic opened in the car park of Dunedin's Edgar Centre. The pop-up clinic was designed to provide vaccinations for whole carloads of families as they turned up, without having to get out and mix with other people.
So it's just to enable whānau and families to be able to come and stay within their car, and they don't have to exit their bubble, and they come and get a jab.
And some people taking the chance to stretch their legs in Dunedin's town belt during lockdown were treated to the skirlings of a lone piper. Ashley Honeywell was out among the grass and trees most lunchtimes, practising on the bagpipes to entertain as well as keep his playing in shape. In the South today.
After the break, we continue our look back at the events of 2021. Welcome back. September started with the COVID-19 lockdown easing for the South Island, prompting many people to head out to enjoy their refound freedoms. And with spring came a host of baby ducklings, creating issues for a few suburban residents.
As September's COVID-19 alert levels eased to level 3 in the south, golfers were able to get back on the fairways and greens, provided they maintained social distancing. Golf clubs said the courses had been respected by the public during the 2-week lockdown.
A lot of the feedback we've had has been really positive. People have been able to have their dogs obviously on lead and picking up after their dogs. We've had no real vandalism or no bikers and things on like we did last time.
A week later, Queenstown's 2 ski fields opened after a 3-week COVID-19 hiatus. About 2,000 skiers and snowboarders visited ski fields at the Remarkables and Coronet Peak, which had received a top-up of snow earlier in the week.
It's like starting a new season all over again. I had that little bit of anxiety that I could remember how to do it, but no, it's good to be out there in the fresh air and enjoying some good snow.
Uninvited ducklings overran an Ashburton garden, much to the concern of the owner, but further south in Dunedin, a Waikari resident took on the responsibility of making sure another brood of ducklings got across the road safely.
They just turned up here a few years ago and we just follow them home. And they live down on the stream, they walk up to our place, we feed them, and at the end of the day we walk them home because I want to make sure they're safe.
And a bright yellow electric bus was tested on Dunedin's streets. Designed and manufactured near Christchurch, the Otago Regional Council was keen to see whether it could handle Dunedin's steeper streets. The city's fleet of electric buses is set to grow to 25 in the near future. Across the South Today.
October saw various milestones achieved by environmental projects around the south, and a major nationwide vaccination push was organised for what was billed as Super Saturday.
There was a concerted push to get most of the country vaccinated in October. A telethon-style nationwide event called Super Saturday saw nearly 10,000 doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine administered in the south.
It's great to see so many people down here today, and I think it shows that people want to get vaccinated. Sometimes they just haven't had the time.
And in Queenstown and Wanaka, just over 2,000 people received vaccinations over the big weekend. The Pomahaka River catchment in Southland was replanted in native trees. Those involved in the project got together during the month to celebrate reaching halfway in the 2-year project. The team have already planted 100,000 trees.
I'm not sure of any other small crews that have achieved so much, so the team's done really well across a range of different projects, so public, private, community groups, iwi. It's been a massive winter.
A crowd of around 300 people turned out in central Otago for the official opening of a new pathway alongside Lake Wanaka. Bird lovers were amongst those checking out the new path and impressed with the care taken by contractors to avoid disturbing the native grebes nesting along the shoreline.
We're a bit worried that it affects the grebes, but overall we are quite happy with how it went. And Dan and his whole team, they were very considerate of the grebes and us.
And some motorists were asked to be patient while sheep were being mustered around the region, including along this road near Omarama. The mob of about 5,000 sheep were on the road in their annual trek to the shearing sheds.
November began as much of the past 2 years have been, with COVID-19 impacting our everyday life.
November opened with the shock news that a bat won New Zealand's Bird of the Year contest, while a Dunedin tourist ferry operator refused to carry passengers who aren't vaccinated against COVID-19.
And the schools soon will have it mandatory for teachers to be vaccinated. For me, it doesn't really make sense then for them to, go on holiday and go and do activities where all of a sudden they're exposed to a whole lot of people that haven't been vaccinated. It just doesn't really make sense. It's inconsistent.
Melbourne Cup Day at Wingatui looked a little different this year, with COVID-19 crowd restrictions evident, making for a very quiet race day.
Today's been terrific. We've got quite a number of people here, but COVID, of course, has restricted us in what we do.
Dunedin screen printing business Uptown Art changed hands as its founder and his wife, who he met on the job, headed for retirement.
It's a very hard decision for me, personally. Leslie was ready to go earlier than I was, but she's more sensible than me.
Queenstown people began preparing for COVID-19 restrictions to ease, while people opposed to vaccinations began protesting around the country, including in Gore, Invercargill and Balclutha.
I believe it's everybody's right to choose what they get to put in their bodies. It's their right to have the power to earn a living without that being taken away from them.
November was a huge month for rally driver Emma Gilmour. She competed in the Cambrian Rally early in the month and then became the first woman driver signed to the prestigious McLaren racing team.
Oh, it's the pinnacle, absolutely. And, and I just feel so grateful that I've got this opportunity because, I've had many a disappointing season and I've had a lot of people that have stood beside me and supported me. Cycling's tour of Southland saw competitors racing around the beautiful south. And at the end of the month, the Prime Minister announced the change from its levels system to the traffic light system, with most of New Zealand beginning at the orange light level. Across the south today.
December started with New Zealand making its transition into the COVID traffic light system, with the new protocol affecting the south in myriad ways.
The rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine passes initially caused confusion among Dunedin. For businesses to operate under Alert Level 1 conditions, they must cite customers' vaccine passes, and there were those who are happy to embrace the new system.
We're not quite sure how it's going to play out. We have hundreds of people through a night. A lot of people come and go. We have smokers ducking in and out. So logistically, it's going to be a bit tricky, but it's just an adjustment. We'll see how it goes. We'll adjust as needed. So we're not too fazed by it.
The Southern District Health Board managed to achieve a 90% vaccination rate among its populace. Thanks to a vaccine drive, the SDHB became the 5th DHB in New Zealand to crack the 90% mark.
Getting over the 90% is fairly and squarely down to our public, to the people of the South, from Oamaru to Rakiora, who have had the courage to want to protect the ones they love.
One St Clair Beach stalwart brought forward concerns to the Dunedin City Council about the rate of erosion of the beach. At the last DCC meeting of the year, Rod Russ voiced his worries around the council's lack of action on the matter and wants the St Clair poles repaired.
And I think that the consultation process has been good all around, but it's all talk and no action.
After months of lockdown, Aucklanders were finally able to stretch their legs and spread their wings as they made their way south. Queenstown welcomed the tourists with open arms, with the influx of visitors hoping to be the start of a busy summer season.
It was a really lovely flight, the views were incredible. I haven't been to Queenstown in quite a long time, so it was lovely to get out and do something different after being in Auckland for quite a long time.
And pharmacies were having to turn people away looking to get their Pfizer booster jabs early.
What wasn't publicised very well is that there is a delay when that time changes to early to mid-January. So currently as it stands, it's still a 6 months waiting time from the second dose to the booster.
The confusion was caused by a government announcement earlier in the week. The announcement didn't make it clear the reduced wait time from 6 to 4 months to receive booster shots would start in January. From across the South today.
And those were the news highlights for 2021. For the latest news from the southern region over the summer, head online to odt.co.nz. We'll be back with you on the South Today from Monday the 17th of January 2022. For now, we wish you and your whānau a very happy festive holiday season. Nō reira, kia pai te pou, ka kite anō.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.